I'd like to call to order our budget hearing for November 14th, 6:30 p.m. This is our second budget hearing for the 2020 budget. So we have a few department heads going this evening to present their budgets, but first we're going to start with public comment. If there's anyone from the public that would like to comment on any budget issue. The floor is open. We'll close it. So seeing no comment from the public, we're going to go over to our department heads. First up is Tara Griesok from the Senior Center.
Do you guys know each other?
There's talk.
Okay, so I'm going to be really quick because there's not too many changes. You already got your folders that have everything that I'm going to explain in there. First page explains the budget adjustments for from 2019 to 2020. I'm going to skip over the first one because that's the one I'm going to go into a little more explanation about. Cleaning supplies, obviously, over the past year, we've had some big increases with our attendance due to 3 of the major fitness/community centers closing in our area. We had Club for Life, the Penn Hills YMCA, and the Wilmerding YMCA close in the fall of, about a year ago, in the fall of last year. And we received a tremendous amount of those members at our center. So we've had to make some adjustments all around at our center to compensate for that. One being more use of cleaning supplies. So that, obviously, with a bigger attendance, requires more cleaning, which requires more supplies. So that's why it went up from 7,000 to 9,000. Office equipment kind of coincides with what our vision is for everything next year. A lot of it's going to be presented with when I present my capital budget. But we are, myself, my staff, and senior council have been working the past year to come up with a plan to change our front lobby and our front entrance for a lot of different reasons, but quickly. One is to secure it. Right now it's pretty open. Anyone can come in and go anywhere within the building without being questioned at all. So we want to make ours more like a typical community center or fitness facility where you come in the front door and you only get to a certain point where you have to be given permission to go beyond that point. One, it's obviously, like I said, for security. 2, it's for membership
Accountability.
access. A lot of our members, they're required to go to the front door or through this and scan their membership cards. One, so that we get reimbursed through Silver Sneakers. We don't get reimbursed if they don't scan their card. And a lot of them just don't see the need to do it, and there's no requirement. You can walk right by the desk, and if you want to choose to scan your card, you can, and if you don't feel like doing it that day, you don't have to. So by having it be to get to a certain point, you got to scan your card before you can go in, that also gives us a better count of who's coming in and also will get us more revenue on the Silver Sneaker sides of things because they're required to scan their card to go further.
Can I ask a question? What are you going to do about the side door?
Side doors are currently locked, so they can only gain entrance by scanning their membership card.
So that would give you the count you need if they come in the side door? No.
Technically, no.
That's
because
what I
there
thought.
are 2 different cards that they have to scan. One is the little white membership card
Yes.
that you have. That just clearly tracks our attendance, which we give to you. If a person has Silver Sneakers, they have an additional card that they have to scan. Once they come through those doors, at any one of the entrances, whether it's the front desk or the 2 side doors, there's an additional scanner once they come through the door that they're required to scan.
So it's already set up that way right
Yes,
now?
right.
Okay.
So with the capital budget, we'll fix the side doors too because we want to have cameras at every entrance so that those are monitored to make sure that they're scanning their cards. Because what's happening also at the side entrances are, you come in and you have 4 or 5 residents that owe dues, and you scan and let them all in.
Oh,
So we have a lot of issues besides the security on the membership side that we're trying to rectify with the changing of the entrance. Office furniture plays into that. We when we redo the lobby, there'll be some things that we want to do minor until we do bigger projects. So it's not much. It's just $500 because it'll play with the part-time employee that I'm going to be addressing in a minute. Agricultural, we did a little maintenance to the outside this year. We ripped up a lot of the old shrubbery, and we had myrtle and within all the flower beds. So that was part of what we used all of our money for this year. Next year, we want to address putting some stuff back into the beds that's low maintenance. So that's why I increased that a little bit. Okay, so getting to the major change in my budget this year is to add a part-time employee at our front desk. This is to be done before we even change the lobby, and that person would just continue on as we do that. Well, obviously, when we change the lobby the way that we want to do it, there's going to have to be a person there that if your card doesn't work or you're a new member, there's somebody there to address the issue. The other reason for that, us wanting that person there, is because of the increased attendance, we've had to increase our programming. So in this past year, me and Carol, our program coordinator, and Chris Gilbert, our fitness coordinator, we are not in the office as much as we used to be. You know, Carol may be in one room teaching a class, I may be in the big room with a social event, and Chris is teaching a class. So a lot of the times we're having to shut the office, and there's nobody there to help people that are new coming in that want to be members, signing people up for special events and programs. So this person would be totally dedicated to, one, making sure people are scanning their cards when they come through the front door, two, helping, sign new members up and taking program registrations and selling tickets to our events. That the times that we picked were the busiest times and the most of the time that we're not there. So it would be that person would staff the front desk between 9 and 1, which are our heaviest, most populated times of the day. And those are the times that we find ourselves not being able to be in the office because we're outside doing our programming. It's the same scale as our evening supervisor. They basically will do the same thing that our evening supervisor does at night. So our evening supervisor does the exact same thing that the front desk monitor would do during the day. So the salary is the same, or the hourly rate is actually the same. It just calculates out a little differently because the hours are, the evening supervisor is 16 hours a week. The front desk monitor would be 20 hours a week. Twofold with this person is making sure people are scanning their Silver Sneakers card, which increases our revenue, which in turn will cover the cost of that person being there. When you go to the second page, it explains it out a little bit more in more detail as far as our total budget for part-time employees. There in that actual, you'll see what the salary is this year and what I'm asking for next year, and it breaks it down as to what employees are actually in that budget line. That includes our Silver Sneakers instructors, again, the evening building supervisor, and the front desk monitor. The next packet you have is our accomplishments. I won't get into, the nitty-gritty of that. You guys get a monthly newsletter. You get our, printouts of our accomplishments on a monthly basis, so you kind of already understand all of that. If you come to the center, you see the growth. Doesn't need to be explained. The one thing I do want to point out at the bottom, which is in red print, you can't miss it, is our revenue for Silver Sneakers. So this year, we projected that we were going to make $30,000. As of September, we've already made $45,644. So we still have October, November, and December. On an average, we're making about $5,500 a month. So you can see where that's going to average out. And you'll see that under the revenue side of my adjustments, I have increased the revenue for 2020 to kind of compensate for that. So, any questions?
How much money do you think, I think maybe we talked about this, Tara, how much money do you estimate we're losing?
Tim, they can't hear you.
How much money do you think we're losing with Silver Sneakers, the people coming in?
I would say, I try to catch them when they're coming through the door as well as all the employees do. It's kind of hard when you have over 5,000 members, which ones have Silver Sneakers and which ones don't. The instructors try to catch them coming into the rooms as well, but I would say probably half of them don't.
Half?
They don't, they don't want to go in their purse. They want to, I left it in this car, or I don't have it today. So it's really, really important, not only for the safety of our building, but also for the membership base. You're losing a lot of revenue by just having the doors open. Obviously, the safety side is what we're most important,
And they're
our
not
most
even-
important issue.
They're not paying for Silver Sneakers. That's given to them through their health care.
Yes.
So it's not even costing them anything.
No,
but
it's just
the
being
revenue's
lazy.
being lost because they won't do their
It's
card.
being lazy.
Yeah.
So, they don't see the importance of it, they don't. Why do I have to do
Well,
that?
because they didn't pay for it. That's kind of probably why.
Well, technically, though, if you come in and you don't scan your card and you go take a class, you're basically
Cheating.
not paying.
Yes.
Right.
So
Sure.
basically, you are doing something that's not ethical when you go into the class and you don't scan your card. Because we get $3.25 to offset that, which in turn, as you can see from my part-time budget, pays for it.
Price for it.
Right.
So, we need a minimum of 8 to 9 people in each class to scan their cards to pay for the instructor. Now, on average, this year, we've had to add, sometimes between the hours of 9 and 11, we have 2 classes going on at a time. We have now made the shuffleboard court during the hours of 9 to noon an actual aerobics room. So we now have two classes going on one in the actual group exercise room and one on the shuffleboard course. So we have 2 classes, which on average have between 15 and 20 in each class. So you take that and you times it times 325. You got to think that, we've tried to catch. You can see that we're raising more money
Yes.
because we're trying to be more diligent about it, but it's also because of the attendance increase. But I can see that definitely
And it could go
increasing
up.
a lot.
I think what you need is a big silver sneaker at the front door.
You just,
remind people
you
what you
can,
think.
Put it in the
you
budget,
can sit
Tim.
there at the front desk and just laugh
Yeah,
all
You
day.
could probably buy one at a Nike
Yeah,
store.
doesn't matter. They know that 90% of them know that they're supposed to scan it, and they just don't. And then obviously you can see that with you can see the attendance there on the accomplishments. You can see the increase of it. You can see the increase of programs. That's where the safety thing comes with everything, because all of that, most of those people pay for things, and we do not, we take cash and credit card, or cash and check. We do not have a credit card machine at the senior center. Seniors don't want to get into that. So we have a lot of, program registration and a lot of stuff coming through our main office, and it's completely open. So we need to be conscious of that and start doing some changes so that you can't just come right in there. So that's the other thing with it.
Two just quick comments, too. One, I think you sound like you're on the right track. Essentially, it's not the way you designed it, but
Right.
the analogy of, a health club entrance pass or register is probably a very good
Well, when I first came there, I went over there in 2006, so 12 years ago. It was not what it was today.
Right.
It was, you had a few social clubs and a bingo.
Right.
You didn't have all this programming, you didn't have a fitness facility, you didn't have Silver Sneakers, everything, there was not a non-resident fee, there was not even a card to scan. People just walked in. So when I went over there, I was like, well, I don't even know if something happens to you medically, I don't know who you are. So that's when we installed the membership software and started tracking who people were, and it just kind of obviously progressed to basically be a community center for adults. So obviously, that wasn't a concern when the lobby was made what it was, because there was no money involved in it. There was no keeping track of what the attendance was. There
That
was no
sounds-
purpose for
Yeah,
it.
that sounds like that's right on top of that, too. And I think you had a follow-up, too, where you talked about some of the additional, for lack of a better term, security measures that you're
Yeah.
looking to improve with, too. So
Right.
by all means, based on some of the information we've talked about
Right.
in the past,
And you'll see, like, in the capital budget, like, have it,
terrific.
phased out through the capital budget, and I'll get into more detail as to, like, what we would like to do with it and how we want to address it.
Yeah, and there's
Obviously,
some-
we want your input,
Yeah,
as
there's
well
some
as
consistent
Doug's.
recommendations with that, too, across the board with it as well. And also some of the things about the landscaping, too. I don't know if you saw that part yet, so we'll share that with you as soon as we can.
Which you may want to take into consideration
Consideration.
with what you're doing with your landscaping.
Oh, yeah, I'm not putting any bushes or shrubs. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Hostas.
Good enough.
Little
Yeah.
things like
Okay.
flowers.
Yeah.
Nothing I have
The
to
low
trim,
stuff, yeah.
low
You're
maintenance.
on the
Low
same
maintenance,
page, thank
yes.
you, great. So good luck to you,
All right,
thank you.
thank you very much.
Nice
Thank
job with
you.
the red, thank you.
I had a question.
We're on to- Oh, I'm sorry.
we're
did
on.
you-
Ron, you have
Ron,
a
Ron has a
Ron.
question.
I'm
No, Ron,
sorry.
yeah, Tara.
What?
Ron-
I'm
Ron?
sorry.
Mr. Harvey has a
sorry.
question.
I just was looking on page 95 of your budget, and 2400 was OPEB annual contribution, so you went from 55,701 last year to zero. Why'd that happen?
No,
Everyone's-
55 is the total of all the revenue?
No, no.
No, that's-
Yeah, OPEB question. That's on.
Oh,
Yeah, that's on,
That,
that's
that's
on all. we put
accounting
that-
entries. What happens
Here,
is,
too, here.
as we go through the year, we pay the retiree benefits, healthcare benefits, and then at the end of the year, when the auditor comes in, he accumulates all that, makes one big entry, and takes it against our OPEB receivable that we have from the OPEB trust. And so then that expense just gets moved to the OPEB contribution, because that's when we actually make the contribution at the end of the year.
So, but it still came out of their budget, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It does come out of our
Yes.
budget.
that's what a lot of people don't understand about my budget. When they look at the total of my budget, a lot of the community kind of question why the senior center budget is what it is. Well, I have, I think, 4 or 5 retired employees that come out of that budget. So that's technically not the total cost of what the operational budget is of the senior center.
It's not operational, but
Yeah,
it
but-
is budget cost.
And-
Yes,
correct
right,
me
but
if
it's
I'm
not
but-
operational.
right.
There, I mean, well, some of it is, but like 100,000 probably of that is retirement,
Yeah.
retirement expenses,
And
not
the OPEB
operation.
contribution, Josie, is distributed across the departments.
It's, yes, it's
Yeah.
Per-
it's
Okay, so
distributed
Where it
that's-
belongs.
based upon,
Yeah.
based upon what department they worked in when they were here.
Right. Because I don't think they were before all put in the right departments, were they, Josie?
They were, and I always wondered why they wouldn't be put
Yeah,
as
and
just a
Josie's
retiree.
kind of like moved everything where it actually belongs.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a false impression
Right,
on
it's
the, on
hard.
the budget, because this is an operating budget, and, well, at least I think it is.
Well, that's how people think it is, but it is, plus there's also expenses
That's just
to
for their
the
retirement.
employees that you have.
Right.
And every employee is different. Some get health care, some don't.
Right.
Some get retirement, some,
But that's every
But I get
department
it.
now, right, Josie?
Absolutely,
They're finally,
it's every-
everyone's where it's supposed to be.
But that would
every
be,
part.
that would be something maybe for council to consider as far as, maybe it's not this budget because it might be too much work. Maybe for the following year, you have like a retiree section. That way that even the public understands, okay, this is how much we're paying in retiree benefits. And that way it gives a truer picture for the operational budgets for all the other departments.
Does all
But that's,
Is
that's-
Josie shooting herself over there?
no.
come out of either OPEB or the police pension fund, or is it?
Yes.
Do we pay municipal tax money towards that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's what should be split apart, I think.
That way we have a clear, because if there were one of these departments who ever like maybe shut down, let's say.
Right.
You
Well,
pick, you
that-
pick a department that gets shut
Shut
down,
down, or it-
there's still gonna be those costs there. So where do those go?
Right.
So they should be separated out to begin with. That way we have a true picture of
But
each of
could
the
do-
different departments.
Well, you could probably still
do
put
that. We
the
could do
department.
subtotals.
Sub, yeah.
You
that
You could
way
still have like a
still
retirement budget
yeah.
and then section out
section
senior
it out
center.
to, yes.
It's an auditing question. more
I
than-
don't know about this year if we could do the subtotals.
No, he's-
but
we're
going
saying next
forward
year.
Next year,
Yeah.
Next year,
Yeah, don't, no.
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tara, great job. Josie, we'll keep you here. I mean, if you want
Oh,
to,
that's fine.
Even if it's
Yeah,
just for
I'm
our
good.
knowledge.
want to present from there, you want to present from up here?
Doesn't matter. Can everybody
Josie's
hear
got
me?
her chair.
can hear
We're
you.
used to her in a
Actually, you
chair.
know what? I don't know if we have a camera issue.
All right.
Sorry.
We're okay, Mayor.
Yeah, we're good?
Yeah, we're good. If she wants to stay there, she's fine.
Have a seat, Josie, we'll get a camera on
Thank
you.
Yeehaw.
All right. I'm going to make this quick.
Feel free to hit
You
Mr.
will.
Hugus. Mr. Rock.
Finance in general is a department that in any company they don't want to pay for, but it's a department that you should have. If you look at the first page of what I gave you, I have all the revenues that aren't necessarily a part of the finance department. In fact, really none of them are, but that's just the way that things have been set up, and maybe that's another thing that we might want to change. But regardless, everything that's marked with an A is shared revenue that comes from either the Commonwealth or the county.
Here, yeah, right.
So speaking of controllable, we really don't have any control over those numbers. The other thing I want to point out is if you look at the other state grants, fire relief, that's the fire department money. And maybe next year it should be moved over to our fire suppression department.
That just
Because
passes
that
through,
money-
right, Josie? That just
It's a
passes through.
pass-through.
Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
a fiduciary
Yes.
for
It's a
it.
pass-through, so
Right,
it
okay.
really, it's not spendable money to
Right.
us.
Right.
So if you take that away, it's instead of having 3.3 million, we're down to 3.1
Yeah,
and some change.
okay.
That's really about all I have to say for that. I have on the second page a pie chart that shows that most of your money is coming from the state and the county. That 950,000 is your regional assets district tax, which is based upon the sales tax in the county. And the Act 205 funding offsets our pension costs. And again, that comes from the state.
To that point for just I'm sorry to interrupt you for a second.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, on the RAD tax information too, because that's also gets split off a couple different ways. One of that's property relief to, I've been learning all this lately, that comes back to us, directly to Monroeville. And the other piece of it is that's also the funding that goes to the library operation.
Right, but,
It all
This
comes
is
in one
only-
chunk, yeah, it comes in
Right.
one chunk to us, yeah.
well, no, the part that we're getting just comes to us.
Oh,
Library
this is
might
the,
go
oh,
on
you
their
didn't have
own.
that in there? Okay, so this is just our property.
Correct.
Excellent.
Libraries comes to them separately.
Right, it does too, okay.
So Josie, that 950,000, the regional assets from the 1% Allegheny tax, sales tax,
Yes,
And our
how do they determine 950?
they have a chart.
Is it based
They
on
have a little.
population or?
I don't recall. I know
Property
I
relief, it's more
figured out. I can get back to you.
It's more of a curiosity.
Yeah, I can get back to you. It's easy enough. I can just go on their website and it shows you how they do the calculation.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, and then I just threw a trend in there, based upon our total revenues. I am not certain why 17 and 18 had high money. It might have had something to do with real estate transfers, because that can fluctuate greatly. And I believe in 18, the mall, was it the mall, Monroeville Mall, that was sold, and that was a bit of money that we got from that.
Miracle
Miracle Mile.
Miracle Mile, I'm
Westinghouse.
sorry, mall.
Well, yeah, the Miracle Mile.
And the Miracle Mile.
I'm not a shopper, they're all the same. right, and then, but then, you know, for 19, then they're down a good bit, but a little bit
Yeah.
up from 16, and so it looks like probably about 3,300 is what we can expect coming into 20.
Down to 3.3.
The next page,
$750,000.
I forgot to tell you, that was, revenue was page 26. Your expenditures, if you want to look at it in the book, is on 21. But what you have in front of you is a copy of what's in the book, but I split it out based on controllable and not controllable costs. Everything in the top part is salary and benefits. And let me clarify, when I say controllable, I mean, I don't control that because I don't set the wages. So, and everything else that's in there is based upon, you know, goes hand in hand with the wages. So that kind of remains fairly steady throughout the years, and you'll see on my trend, but I combine all expenditures on my trend. I want to point out that retiree health insurance is 10% of the total salary and benefits for finance alone. And I believe we've talked before about that's a pretty big number when you take it from the municipality as a whole. Down to the controllable expense, the auditing and accounting services is the first on the list. I want to point out that since I came, I've brought the auditing costs down by about $10,000 from what it was. If you look at, I had to pencil these in because I realized that the bank fees were included with auditing fees for 16 and 17. Then when I came, I split that out so it would be a little more transparent. But our auditing fees were $36,000 in 2016. For 2019, it says 23 there, but we had an additional 2,500 for a grant audit. So that was actually 26,000. What else do I need to tell you?
Chrissy, why'd the contract services fees go up so much?
That's our software. And actually 15,000 in the 2019 budget. That was a miscommunication between IT and my department. When we did the budget, and I guess Roy wasn't caught, I was under the impression that IT maintained that because they maintain the computers.
Oh.
But as you can see, the trend, we go, you know, it's 68, 68, 89.
89 is the actual for this year to date. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So really, it being at 72 for 20 revised is not,
Well, we
You-
did a lot of upgrades that we're not going to have next
yeah.
year.
Okay, so it's not crazy it actually has gone down from the actual of this year.
Correct.
Okay,
So if you look at the revised budget for
Okay, so-
19, it just, that's a bad number in it, the
Okay.
15,000.
that's what threw us.
So, any other questions on that? Okay. Then I just gave you another picture to look at. This is all of the expenditures. So when you combine all the expenditures, that contract service fee isn't as bad when you look at it in respect to health insurance and retiree health insurance and salaries. So that's where the bulk of the money's going. The last page is the expenditure trend. We went from 750,000, and I believe that was due to some extra health care and extra wages. So from 16, 17, 18, and I don't have 19 in here. But I think the 674 that we're looking at for expenditures is a good amount. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good. Any other questions for Josie?
Right?
Good, nice job.
Thanks.
Next up, the fire chiefs.
Papers, we need papers.
You guys want to all come up? You can.
That's good.
Gentlemen, if you could just identify yourselves for the record, that'd be great.
I'm Chief Scott Faze from Fire Company Number 4.
Chief Scott Belts, Minerva number 1.
Deputy Chief Michael Coleman from number 5.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Good evening, members of council, Mayor Griesbach, Manager Little, and all other municipal officials here this evening. Thank you for allowing us to participate in the 2020 budget hearing. The Minerva Fire Chiefs Committee has met and agreed on the budget expenditure detail for fire suppression and ambulance service for the municipality of Monroeville is indicated in the documents in front of you. I believe you have some of our documents already. You have the, do you have the 2020 budget expenditure detail in front of you to go over?
What page number is that?
42.
Yeah,
43.
43 and 49, actually.
Not 45. 43 and 49.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll start with
49,
page 43, fire suppression.
Okay.
So some minor changes to our operational budget for 2020 are just basically inflation charges. We raised, we added $1,000 to our host testing fees because, you know, inflation, we have to pay to have that stuff done. It has to be done by an accredited, approved company to do that. So we're consistent with that every year. So we raised that only $1,000. Our repairs and maintenance budget, it seems to keep going up. You know, as some equipment becomes a little older, we do replace that. However, as some of the equipment becomes older, sometimes it costs a little more to maintain it. So that's why the increase there. The fuel went up very minimally, $700, and we did add some about $2,200 to the tire line item for 2020. So the total increase for the fire suppression budget for 2020 that we're proposing is approximately $14,000, which
And this is for all the departments,
this
right?
is for
This
yes,
is
this is for
five
for all
firehouse
5
systems.
fire companies. That's correct.
Thank
yes.
Now, do you divide it up equally amongst the 5 of you, or how do you figure out who?
Well,
Is that where the fight begins?
First come, first served.
that is a task that is just
It could
I mean, I assume
impossible.
that maybe some
I mean-
buildings are bigger than others, some have more overhead.
Basically, for this kind of budget, basically, if you look at all the line items, that's the amount of money that we need as a whole department to operate for the year.
Yeah, so I
So-
mean, when it comes to maintenance,
Yeah.
you know, if one of
Yeah.
my trucks, it starts tallying out of the, you know, so when it gets to the, you know, when his truck might go over for whether it's an inspection, service, tires, you know, he gets deducted from it. So there is really no allotment specifically to any, we don't have it subdivided between departments so that you have this much and you have this much. You know, it seems to,
So when stuff comes up and the receipts come in or invoices come in, it just all comes out
yeah.
of.
It
Right,
seems to have
yeah.
never been a
It's-
problem
it's-
thus
yeah.
far. It's always worked out to where you get to the end of the year and, you know, almost everything we do, majority-wise, you know, is handled through the municipal garage.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they're able to tell
I
us.
suspect
it
since
does.
the hiring of the new mechanics,
There'll be even more.
trucks won't go out as often and
Yes.
save expenses by doing it in-house.
It's been a huge, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's been great
Positive.
having
Well, we've
those,
talked about
yeah.
it for the last couple of years, that if we could get another heavy-duty mechanic down there, it
Well,
would
the
help out you
turnaround's
guys
been
as well.
phenomenal. I mean, you know, just the stupidest of maintenance. I mean, just
Yeah.
general maintenance, oil changes, you know, the stuff that happens, whether it's just during your inspection time or biannually. Boom, you know, you're doing a 1-day turnover.
Right.
Versus, you know, 3-4 days.
Well, and then you don't
of
have to have
service.
something out of service that,
Correct.
you know, then you gotta cover for each other and, or whatever.
And
It
just,
can be
just to
strong.
add for the record, because I know the answer to the question, but, so just so everyone has an understanding of what's the size of the fleet that we're talking about. So
How
everyone
many
understands
vehicles is what he's saying?
Well,
Start doing the math.
Sure,
Company
30
4 has 9 pieces of
should be
apparatus.
32, I think.
Number 1 has
5.
6.
Well,
5 or
6,
6.
7, including the chief's vehicle, so.
Don't make me take my shoes off.
Yeah, I know, that's what-
Count.
You have, Company 5 has 8. Company 6 has 9.
24,
And Company 3 has
33,
a pumper, a mini,
435,
Man, yeah.
command
36,
unit,
And the utility,
and their
37.
utility and their chief's car.
38.
5. They have 5.
So I think I counted
It's almost
38.
40. It's almost 40 pieces of
Yeah.
apparatus that the municipality maintains for us.
Well, not only with this Adam Mechanics, it helping out you guys, but it's also helping out the whole municipality.
Oh, yeah, sure.
With the garbage trucks and everything
yeah.
else, so I
We
think.
mostly see it on our,
But you can
through our
deduct
eyes.
9 vehicles from that because this is just the fire.
Fire.
Right.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
just the
yeah.
fire side of it.
That includes all the ambulances. There's
And that
9
we are
ambulances.
yeah.
There's 9 advanced life support ambulances that we operate as well.
Right.
And that kind of falls under the ambulance
Right.
budget, not the fire.
But I'm glad to hear you guys
30,
saying that the
30 or
mechanics helping
31.
you out.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't think people understand the exact size of it,
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
how large it is.
they don't.
So
Okay.
any further questions on the fire suppression budget,
Not for me.
operation budget?
Just being your straight man into the next,
Yep,
Budget.
okay. We will now discuss on page 49, the ambulance service operation budget. So, this was another minimal cost, but I'll get to something additional than this. So, again, with repair and maintenance line item, we had to raise that $2,000 for just the maintenance and wear and tear on the ambulances and to get those fixed throughout the year. We deleted the contract service fees line item, which was budgeted last year for $3,000. We have no reason for that, so that line item is deleted. So $3,000 is being taken away from the operational budget for that line item. So we really don't have any contract service fees for EMS in town, so.
Yeah, the stretcher repair would be the only thing that would fall under it. And some of those. But for whatever reason, it wasn't
Yeah.
drawn up.
Yeah. Okay.
so you need to make sure it's correct then for the structure
We
maintenance.
will need to make sure that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
You have to back check that one?
Yeah, so what
Yeah.
we have, all our stretchers, one of the things we went to within the last few years in Monroeville, being that we've kind of been 4 different EMS stations, with our ambulances, we've all really band together over the, last several years, but making sure that our equipment is the same. So that if my ambulance, example, a few years ago, we had that vehicle into the creek down off of Thompson
Yeah.
Run Road. So we had 8 out of our 9 EMS units on scene. And what we were doing in that example, we were literally taking stretchers out of trucks, and it didn't matter what stretcher went into another truck. We were just literally shuttling patients back and forth. So his ambulance would pull up, I would take his stretcher out and load a patient in.
Okay,
So all our stretchers are made by the same manufacturer. And they're all relatively the same age-ish, within a few years or so. But we have a maintenance agreement with those stretchers so that they're maintained.
okay.
These stretchers are costing, in excess of $20,000 now, just for the stretcher itself. So
Right.
we're keeping up on the maintenance on these things so that, they're
last.
not a problem for us when
Right.
you need them.
Right.
They're hydraulic operated, they require a battery lifting system and
Okay.
whatnot. So they're way more complex than they used to be 20 years ago.
Right.
So that agreement that we have for that service is so.
So
that
you
they
don't
can-
know if that's not in here under the contract then?
Yeah.
That should be under there.
It's under the revised night, yeah, it
I
should
didn't
be the
realize
20.
that was coming out of that line item.
Yeah, well,
Because it was
we missed it.
removed. It was removed, so,
So you may need to add that back in then.
we may need to.
yeah.
What does it cost them to do the yearly inspection, do you know?
I do not know off the top of my head.
But we might want to add
We
that
can find
back
out.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
fine, that's
I
something
can,
to maintain.
I can find out that information and let you know. Who do I let know? Mr. Little? Okay. I will-
Everybody
I will-
points down there.
I will let Mr. Little know tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
And the,
Because-
and the repair, I'm sorry to cut you off, the automobile repair and maintenance, that figure, so, as we mentioned, we're doing it in-house with.
Yeah, well, that's why that number is relatively low
That's
for
just-
9 ambulances.
Okay,
Because it's labor for your, in case we would maybe have to send a piece of apparatus out.
Okay, so that's more
Yeah.
when if you're outsourcing.
Yeah, right,
You're not,
yeah.
you're not buying
Yeah,
parts.
right.
that we're
Well,
putting on.
there is actually a line item for parts there, motor vehicle parts, and that's what's,
The mechanics, when
Mechanics.
they need a part for an ambulance, it comes out of that.
That's what I was trying to get
Right,
at.
yeah.
But as far as the repair and maintenance, that's just if you actually send a vehicle out, because we're
Yeah.
covering that in
A
public works.
lot
Right,
of that gets done
exactly.
in-house.
Okay.
But there's also a specialty component of that occasionally associated with the ambulance units.
Yeah, there are
themselves,
times
the
they have to go
ones
back to their
yeah, they have to go to
builder.
the
To the
dealership
dealership.
Let's understand, yes.
for maintenance work, and most of the time, if they're newer, obviously, they're going there for
Warranty.
warranty work, so.
Okay, I only have a question as to, the gasoline only went up $700 on all the fire trucks, but $10,000 on the 9 ambulances.
Figure out the
Well,
mileage.
I have
Is
a,
that,
Says
I have a good explanation
there's
for
no
that.
mileage written down, sir.
ambulances go
Here-
to
here's-
Pittsburgh
I-
every day.
Here's the explanation for that. Our call volume for EMS has gone up 64% in the last 5 years.
Wow.
We went from running around 4,000 calls up to over this year, we're gonna probably cap out at 7,400 calls,
Wow.
EMS calls this year in this municipality. So that's why there was an increase, that even in years past, we've seen the gasoline, oil, and lubricants line item go up over the past couple years for that reason, because our call volume is ever increasing. And it's just
Okay.
a necessity for the.
No, but that
for the-
needs to be
yeah.
explained to
Right.
everybody, that that amount of calls is what's happening, because people don't understand,
Right, yeah.
you know? So, and there's a lot of people out there to be thankful that you guys actually run that many calls.
And that also includes lubricants.
Yeah.
That's not just
Yeah,
a fuel.
Just fuel, that's
Yeah.
oil and hydraulics and stuff that you
Okay.
need for anything like that. So, the next line item, we just increased the tires about $500, just because, the ambulance tires obviously get used more than fire truck tires. They're getting replaced more often. We're putting more mileage on the ambulances, so that's why that went up a bit. And probably our biggest request for the operational budget line item is a document that you were handed that says Monroeville Fire Department Budget Change Proposal.
Hold on. We're just getting them.
Okay,
It's just in.
yeah.
Want one?
I didn't get one. You got them all?
No, they're coming. None of us got them.
So this proposal that we're bringing you, basically, if you look at the chart up top indicates our call volume from 2005 to 2018. Obviously, we didn't put 2019 in there because we don't have that final number, but we're projecting about 7,400. So it's going to even go up higher than the 2018 number. Pardon me. So that there you can see that's our call volume that has increased over the years.
Hasn't gone down.
Yeah. So if you look down at the grid where it says current Monroeville ambulance contribution and proposed increase, in the column that says current budget ambulance contribution, this is a line item on the ambulance service operational budget is ambulance contributions. It's the last line on the budget. The contribution has been $35,000 for essentially 8 ambulances, but this year because of our call volume, we've added another ambulance to the fleet for Company 6, and that brought us to 9. So, the contributions for the ambulance service were only 35,000.
Well, 5,000 apiece.
Yeah, basically, yes.
And
That's
that
what-
ambulance that was added was bought by the fire department
Yeah,
itself
oh, sure
directly.
he is.
So
All
that-
the,
all the-
all
all
the
the
ambulances
ambulances
in the
are.
entire
Everyone needs to
municipality
know that, understand that.
are bought by the individual companies themselves.
Yeah.
So we're proposing that number, we're proposing an increase up to $185,000 annually for ambulance contributions.
So what's the contribution? Like, what's it for?
It's just for for us to provide EMS, essentially, to the
buy
municipality.
equipment,
yeah. And to buy equipment
Equipment,
and-
because, like Scott said, it costs $20,000 to buy a stretcher, aside from the ambulances. The cost up to,
Go ahead, say it.
I think, our last ambulance that we bought
$225,000.
cost us $260,000 for one ambulance. You know, that's
And
that's
this
it.
money is for the stuff that you need to go in it, like apparatuses, that, like
Yeah,
you said,
exactly,
stretchers
yeah,
and.
stretchers, equipment
Yeah.
to keep
Scott,
us
you mentioned the
certified.
$20,000. How much is the load system?
Oh, the load system is, all in all, if you buy the stretcher and the load system together, it's $60,000
Wow.
for just the stretcher and the load system in there. And obviously, the load system helps our personnel to not get hurt.
Well,
Because
yeah.
we're lifting very heavy people into the ambulance, and this load system does that work for us. So we're pulling back on the workers' comp for EMS personnel getting injured. So, I mean, you spend a little more money, and in the long run, you're spending less.
Right.
Yeah, especially from a workers' comp standpoint.
How much equipment would you say is in one ambulance?
Oh, my gosh.
With the
I
trucks
know you're
being-
gonna have to ballpark it.
Yeah,
With the trucks being pushing over 200,000
yeah,
now, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the bulk of your
Yeah.
price, obviously, but, you know. the equipment
Cardiac
is-
monitors, $30,000. Stretchers, $20,000. The
Pulse
load
ox.
system, pulse oxes are about $1,000. You know, and we've it's all the immobilization equipment we have to buy. I mean, for me to go through all the equipment that we keep in an ambulance
Right.
is nearly impossible
The
because
bags
there's
that
just
you
so
carry into
much.
somebody's house with your
Yeah.
medical equipment
Yeah. Right.
are a couple $100 a piece.
Yeah.
just
What
for
happens
bags.
if you are on an ambulance call like the one you referred to on Pitcairn Road and some of this stuff gets broken?
Well, if it gets broken, we just have to throw
Who
it
pays-
away and replace it.
who pays for that?
And we pay for it out of our pocket. Yeah.
That's paid for by the volunteer firemen.
Yeah.
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 So the figures here, so if I'm looking, and I can be ties to my very first question about how you guys divvy it up.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking, station one, it's 3 times the amount, so from 10,000 to 30,000.
Yeah.
Whereas station 4 is getting 6 times the amount,
I have 3 ambulances.
10,000 to 60,000.
Yeah, we have a third ambulance that we operate in our station.
Oh, so this is a
Yeah.
per ambulance,
Yeah,
is what you're saying?
essentially it is. It doesn't come out exactly, but I think when we built this, we kind of built it like, according to how each company provides EMS service and in the amount of service they provide in the municipality, according to their district.
So,
And the call volumes vary between the stations.
so in the past, if the chief, Station 1, requested his budget allotment for his ambulances, he would get $10,000.
Yeah, in the past.
$5,000 per unit.
Yeah,
Correct.
It was 5,000 per unit before.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that.
For all eight
Yeah.
apparat, or 8 or 9.
Yeah, everybody
Yes,
gets
Yeah,
exactly.
everyone
For 8
gets
ambulances, it
5,000
was
per
5,000.
ambulance.
Because
If
this
you had-
year,
Number 4 had 3 of them, and
well, we've only had 2 of our ambulances in this allotment, because we were only getting 10,000 before.
But you've added a third
We-
one, you
we-
said.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
well,
there's
that-
been a
That was the third one was added many years ago.
Second.
That was before
Oh.
regime.
But
That
there
was
was-
back in the Bob Ratcher days of
Oh,
Company
okay.
4.
But
And,
you've never gotten the
Harold
other
can
5,000?
explain it.
yeah, Harold. Yeah.
Wait a second, you never got
No.
the additional
No, because
monies for the third?
we never brought a proposal in front of you for
Oh.
that. So, you know, we've looked at this and we've seen the need for an increase in ambulance contribution.
Right.
We haven't asked for one since probably the early 90s.
Yeah.
So now we're in the, I mean,
2005.
5. Oh, is that the last time we?
Well, we looked back on the records when we
Yeah.
requested about this and couldn't find anything earlier than that, but I don't think it's ever been.
So in
Yeah.
15 years, essentially, the same amount of money has been in place.
Right.
When 15 years ago, an ambulance would have been roughly, barely $100,000.
There's 3 old fire chiefs sitting in here
Yeah.
today.
so-
Now, do you ever remember an increase in that?
I can tell you that I started doing the budget in 2000, and it was a 5,000 at 2000.
Harold,
Wow.
do you remember any?
Well, and you're just
can't-
telling us there's been a 106% increase in EMS call-outs since 2005.
Yeah.
And there's never been a request for an increase.
Right, essentially.
So,
Gotcha.
so number one has how many ambulances?
2.
And 3 has how many?
3 has none. They don't provide EMS service.
So number 3 doesn't get,
No.
they're not in this.
They're not
budget.
even
They
on
Right,
don't
the
right. They're not
receive-
on the
they don't
ambulance,
receive the
but,
revenue.
ambulance budget at all.
Okay. And number 4 has, I'm sorry.
3,
3?
And 5
2,
and 6.
2.
Okay.
Should meet 9. I hope.
I can add them up here. Looks like 9. So now with these calls, yeah, the volume's up, and I mean, you guys, everyone knows you guys do a phenomenal job with what you're doing. We have 2 hospitals in our community.
Yeah.
Actually, our community's aging, so there's certainly a need. That's probably why there's the increase in volume of calls.
Mayor, when the chiefs talked about this, I did a little research they didn't know I did, which was I called different communities and asked them how much their EMS services were costing them. And an example is Penn Hills has a municipally paid EMS service that only has 2 ambulances on per shift, I believe. And
2 to
their
3.
budget's $1.7 million. I called Mount Lebanon, who subcontracts their EMS out to Health South,
No, to,
They're an authority.
to Medical Rescue Team South.
Medical Rescue Team South. They pay them around $380,000 a year. And I checked with Plum, and they give their, is that EMS service private, I think?
It's
Well,
a
yeah,
nonprofit, it's the
And
same.
Yeah.
they provide them over $400,000.
Yeah.
I think it's around $480. But,
This is a bargain.
even
Now,
with this
yeah, because-
increase, you're still only taking it to 237 and 9 EMS units.
Yeah.
And I think maybe another way to look at that, when you talk about the increase in the numbers that are here, it's so high, it's also the man-hour usage. If I recall correctly, when you look at these calls, it's about an hour, a little bit less per person in place. So you're looking at almost, if you divide that by 365, it's like 19 point something or another. Let's say 20 calls per day as well with man-hour use. So in other words, just about every hour of the day, there's personnel engaged in the activity at 2 at a minimum
Yeah.
per place. Yeah, and in most cases, there's usually between 4 and 6 across the municipality, depending on the time of the day. Usually 6 or more, actually, in most cases, too.
Usually
So-
between the hours of 3 p.m. and
3
8 p.m.,
p.m.
you can guarantee there's about
6.
5 ambulances,
It's
5
running.
ambulance calls going on at this.
Same time.
Roughly at the same time.
Yeah, the
through
man-hour
those
usage
hours.
and the operational tempo is higher than it's ever been.
So 7,000 calls, roughly, we're approaching that 7,400 for the year. There's a health insurance reimbursement, right, for the calls?
We do get reimbursed. Obviously, unfortunately, I guess we're the only industry that insurance really doesn't have to pay the full amount that we bill. So we might, if we would send.
That's pretty
high
standard.
mar-
If
we- oh,
It's
yeah.
got that same
Yeah,
problem.
you're a chiropractor, you know about that. They decide what they want to pay us.
Certainly.
So if we want to bill them $800 for an ALS trip, they might say, okay, we'll pay you $500.
Well, it's the agreed upon fee schedule, because you'd be participating providers for the different insurance plans, so to speak.
Well, no, I don't know if that's
The
necessarily
auto industry
true.
pays up pretty,
The auto, yeah. auto
Yeah,
industry,
that's about the only, the auto
the
industry.
difference
If we send a State Farm a bill because you had a crash and you,
It's fixed.
and you had to go to the hospital, they pay the whole bill. They're about the only, the only folks that pay the bill.
Yeah, the challenge in EMS billing has traditionally been, as opposed to individual service provided, say for other healthcare providers, it's an either this or that. It fits into a couple of different categories, irrespective of insurance being paid for vehicle accidents or specialty
remember the-
research too. So it's almost fixed in that. So
It's
if
a
the
you bundle everything together.
yeah, right, they
remember
do.
the
So
number of calls that they could get,
Yeah.
that they take a person from an auto accident, they do heart monitoring, administer IVs, drugs, trauma treatment, and go to a trauma center, Allegheny General or Mercy, or, and the person's in injured at all, and they get nothing.
Oh, yeah, those two, too. There's
Yeah.
also a certain part of it, it's not recall, on the
Yeah,
uninsured auto. But
there's a lot of calls that we go on where we get paid nothing for
Our
providing a
service is
service
based on, we know we're getting paid.
because they don't.
We price services based on the service that we provide to the
Yeah,
the
so
community.
it doesn't have the opportunity, now, some states allow individual fee-for-service for certain types of care, but the difference between certain types of advanced care that's in place and really extensive care, they're the same for somebody that gets an IV started on them as opposed to emptying the drug box and go through a cardiac arrest. The number's the same.
And take it
And
another
extra
different-
resources, too, and
This
personnel.
may
We
sound
put people
stupid,
on-
but you guys have sent out, as we all know, ambulances, fire trucks, and it ends up like, no, I don't want to go. And you've just wasted gas, time,
Yep.
wear and tear.
Yep.
Well,
You know,
certainly.
like I refuse to be treated.
But if you also look at the people that are on those apparatus, I'll use a blanket term there. But, you know, when I was 28 years ago, when I started right here in Monroeville, under
Yeah.
someone I know,
Over there.
you know,
I'm sure about the fourth.
Yeah,
Fire chief,
yeah.
not the fourth
Yeah,
fire
really.
the training in this field was actually, for the most part, it was free. You know, it was free for me to go to EMT school. Now those charges are $550 if you go, you know, and take that
Very
course
basic.
through CCAC.
What's a medic class?
versus-
Well, depending on where you go, if you go to the Center for Emergency Medicine down through UPMC, it's about $7,000 to become a paramedic.
And the fire company takes care
And
of
the
it.
fire
And the fire
companies
company
are
has to pay for that.
we fund, you know, you come back with a certificate now.
Right, yeah.
We're not paying for your exploration.
Let me
but,
ask
you
you
know,
a curveball question here. I retired from this. I support this. I realize where you're coming from probably as much as anybody in the room. I have a concern that was presented to me twice, and do we have a guarantee down at dispatch center that all our ambulances will never go out of town?
Oh, certainly. That's in our operational dispatch procedures. Anytime that
Because I know we give a lot of mutual aid.
we do, unfortunately, we do provide the communities around us upon request EMS service if they need it. I mean, and they do the same for us when we need it, but we're pretty self-sustaining. We can almost put every ambulance on the road if there's a need. Obviously, the crash that Scott was talking
good
about,
examples.
we needed 8 ambulances. 8 ambulances showed up, and because the troops come out for the call. So there is a limit. Once we reach 5 ambulances committed to calls or whatever, committed to whatever, a detail calls, or even out of service. That includes out of service ambulances.
Okay.
So if you have 2 of the 9 out, that means we allow 3 more ambulances to be out. We will always maintain a minimum of 3 ambulances in town for our residents. We never strip the municipality and go down to 0 unless we're providing 9 residents of Monroeville with EMS service at that one time, obviously.
Or it's an extreme trauma
Right,
call.
yeah,
with
yeah.
A bus accident.
If it's a mass casualty incident, it's like all hands on deck.
Yeah.
If the city of Pittsburgh would have a major event and they needed EMS, they would request maybe 2 or 3. And, when stuff like that happens, we are all very on the ball with that. I'll send a text out to the fire chiefs committee. Hey, there's something going on in the city of Pittsburgh. They're calling a couple of our ambulances. What's out of service? What's in service? Let's make sure we keep the in-town.
Even if all our ambulances are tied up at a bad incident, can't we call mutual aid?
Oh, yeah, sure. We have mutual aid contracts with surrounding communities. Plum, Murraysville,
It's required by license.
Penn Hills. Yeah, we have to have a contract for them in case all of our ambulances and all of our EMS resources are expended. We have backup.
Okay.
That's required.
But we will not strip the community.
No. That's been a policy that's been in place for years and years. Yeah.
Okay.
I have nothing on there.
So I guess the chiefs they're asking at this point for a proposed budget increase of $150,000 that's not in the budget. That's something we wouldn't, obviously, we don't decide now, but
Yeah,
that's something
right.
that
Yeah,
council considers in December or whenever they decide.
And you'll
to
check
pass the
on that
budget.
other line item?
Yeah,
Let Tim know
I will
tomorrow.
check on on the or
Yeah,
the contract service fees.
Correct.
And the rest of,
Contribution, I don't know. how we
there's
missed
no other
that.
biomedical contracts, Scott, that's existing for equipment servicing,
No.
some of which has been still with.
Currently, the only other item that we would have to do that kind of contract with are the cardiac monitors we carry. However, those are provided
By Forbes.
right currently by Forbes Hospital.
Yeah.
However, at the end of next year, those monitors are going to be gone because those are,
Because of age.
And
they're aged and they are not going to be doing any preventive maintenance on them at that point. So
Supported from the.
that's something we're going to have to look at in our budget as well, to replace 9 cardiac monitors. Well, actually, yeah, 9 or 10.
Is there any
So-
grant funding or anything for something like that?
Well,
Sometimes.
it's a possibility for the volunteer fire department, grants are kind of easy to get. For the volunteer
For
EMS
not
services,
so much.
it's much harder.
And
Yeah,
by
it's
precedent,
just-
it was
Because
some-
they're just not there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and by
But that's not
precedent, it
dead in
was-
the water yet either.
yeah.
by precedent,
That's
though, it's
something
been something that
that's
Monroeville's
something that we
done.
have on the middle burner.
Okay.
It's not quite on the front because it's not going till the end of 2021.
21.
21.
Okay.
End
We're
of
thinking about
2021. But it's something that's on our radar, and we're
Okay.
keeping a close eye on it because, if these monitors that Forbes has provided to us very graciously, if they start breaking and we can't,
That's okay.
and they can't fix it,
Work it.
Right.
we gotta be
Figure out what
worried
you're
about
gonna
that.
do.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
yeah. So, there was one other item that we wanted to bring before you, and that's in regard to a capital expenditure for the ambulance service. I don't believe you have anything for this.
Yeah, because capital wouldn't be part of this budget.
Oh, you don't want to talk about that at all?
I mean, that's the pleasure of council, but that's,
Well, I think we're going to have a meeting for capital expenditure,
Yeah.
but we're not.
Are we,
Yeah.
Tim?
Really sure you have to.
all the
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have another,
Come another time.
just capital.
There'll be a separate capital
another
budget
time.
meeting.
Okay,
asking-
another
you're
time.
asking-
You
You're
can wear
asking
the
us
same
already.
shirt.
Okay, yeah, I know,
You
yeah.
can
I
email me
understand.
what you were just about to say.
Oh, okay, okay.
That way
Because he
he
does
can put
need
it,
It's
to
not
know.
that bad at all.
Okay.
You won't fall off your chair, don't worry.
I already have.
I was gonna say, he's already off his chair.
Very good.
Yeah.
Anything, other questions for these
No,
gentlemen?
very informative.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, on behalf of the Monroeville Fire Department and the Fire Chiefs Committee, we'd like to thank the municipality of Monroeville, members of council, Mayor Griesbach, Manager Little, for their continued generosity and commitment to the Monroeville Fire Department in the past, today, and into the future. It's much appreciated. We thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Police Department, Chief Cole,
I
you're
know.
up, please.
Do we have to take a break for that before the
I
police
think-
department
can you-
shows up?
No, do we have to put tape on your
now,
mouth?
let me say
Nope.
this, if you thought this
I've seen you two talking.
Sharon, you need a.
Oh, he's carrying a calculator. Oh, no.
not yet.
Chief, welcome.
No, he has
How
a
are you today?
calculator in his
Great.
hand. Oh, no.
You're not allowed to talk to
I
him.
know. It's going to be.
What page are the expenditures on there, Chief, do you know?
I just
did
have
see it.
pieces of the budget here,
See what page you're,
so I do not,
Sorry, Jim.
I already did that. Here, 29,
50.
here, is police
Starts on
administration.
29.
It start on
Couple of
29?
pages.
That's where I'm at.
It's worse.
Then it goes to emergency communications, well, that'd be dispatch center, right?
Right.
Then police patrol, criminal investigation,
And then
police
the
support
public safety
services,
trends,
police training,
emergency management.
school
Another one of
crossings.
those missing
Okay,
with those numbers.
29, Ron.
I'm there.
We're there. We're there.
There's another one of those missing with that number.
Okay.
Oh,
there we go. I concur with that. Page 29.
is it on all of them? Yeah.
You know, I'll give a quick synopsis, obviously, of the police department.
Where is it?
we've continued to be consistent with running around 18,000 calls for service. That seems that we'll be somewhere close to that also this year. In addition to that, we've done the staffing it currently is at 44 sworn officers, including me. We have 3 in the queue, as we will say. We have 3 that we're real close to hiring. Whether we get that done here in December or the first part of January still kind of remains to be seen. But we have 3 more that'll be coming on to get us to our staffing of 47, which was what we were authorized to do during 2019. Currently, we are only staffing 2 divisions, the detective division, which has 1 supervisor, a lieutenant, and 4 detectives, 2 of which are corporals, and then myself in administration with, of course, Karen as the administrative assistant, I guess civilian employee. We did get our IT person, who seems to be working extremely well. Obviously he's just getting his feet wet the first couple of weeks he's been here. So we have a civilian information technology person that's assigned to our division. And then, of course, we have Dave O'Neill, who's the fleet maintenance person that we share, but he's still assigned in my chain of command. Our patrol division has the other, I guess, would be 39 officers. My arithmetic's correct, 36 to 38 officers that are assigned to the patrol division that still patrol 3 shifts, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. Of those 38 officers, 8 of them are supervisors assigned to various shifts. I think our staffing is going to stay at 47 we budgeted for this year, with the addition of a deputy chief position, which would take us to 48. Any questions?
That's in the budget already.
That's
the
in the,
assistant.
that is in the budget?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's in
I
the budget.
think it is.
That's in the budget we currently have.
Is he in the administrative budget?
Yes.
Yeah,
Has there been
The
any
IT
talk of doing getting a dog, doing any of that?
Part of that has been because I've been in the delayed form. We do not have any canines currently. When canines are assigned, they're assigned as part of our patrol division, not as some special division like we had previously.
Okay.
We've done that for staffing reasons, to be able to let us staff the individual shifts and keep our minimum staffing up. Maybe you should note that our minimum staffing has remained at 5 officers and a supervisor on second shift all days. On daylight, 4 officers and a supervisor. On third shift, 4 officers and a supervisor, with the 5 officers and supervisor being on Friday and Saturday evenings. So the answer there is, yeah, we would certainly like to still look at. I have in our capital, I know we're not talking capital, I have put a budget line item in there for the equipment that would be necessary to purchase, to upfit cars and do what we have to do. We've been changing our fleet, as people I'm sure have seen throughout the municipality. We've gone from a sedan to I call it a utility platform, which is the Ford Explorer Police Utility. We were going to stay at that platform because we need the larger cars. As I do know, with my new 2020 Ford Explorer that I finally got here last week, it's getting the upfitted, as they say. Those cars are a little bit bigger now. They're also going to be a platform for us to go to hybrid vehicles here in the near future that are police pursuit rated and are very, at least the initial couple months, 6 months of them being in the big cities are becoming sought after. We're going to wait a year. We may not do it with the cars, the next generation cars. We may wait another year just to make sure that we don't get the first year and they have a lot of problems with
Yeah.
them. They've already recalled some of the wiring harnesses on them, things like that. So, but that's going to be the future for our patrol fleet, that they will be assigned, types of hybrid type cars. That'll be something in the future, and they'll be really functional hybrid cars. And again, talking about future, the canines, I do want to try to get 1 or 2 more canines into the fleet here, or canine officers, canine dogs for us. But they're still dependent on, and there's some things we still have to work out with how we're going to reimburse them, pay them for certain things. There's Fair Labor Standards Act that we have to follow, and we're trying to tweak that a little bit with the bargaining unit people.
Doug, touchy subject, are you looking at body cameras at all?
I am, Ron. It's not a really touchy subject. The state did an outstanding job of putting out good legislation, which is not something I say very often about the state when they legislate things. They did it appropriately. They listened to the right people. They tried to get a balancing act between the, I guess, more liberal side that wants everything videotaped to what they can and cannot see. I think our state did a great job with that, so I'm totally in favor of body cameras. What's been happening here, and we've talked about some of the expenses, we've been holding on.
That's kind of what I was getting.
Yeah, well, again, it's going to be a capital, though, Ron, it's going to be a capital, I did budget for next year for that, and the capital side of things. What the issue is that our in-car cameras that we've had forever, we've been in in-car cameras really since the late 80s. We were one of the first to get into them. They are now, the current set that we have is well past its useful life. They were supposed to be 5-6 years. They're now going to be 7 or 8 years we've gotten out of them. So the technology keeps changing on a daily basis. But the new technology ties that all in, which includes body cameras, in-car cameras, which is what that budget line is for in the capital. And then even we're going to start having we have them videotaped now, but we never had audio because of the Restrictive Wiretap Act here in Pennsylvania. We're going to have audio in an interview room, so everybody post Miranda, we will audio and
Your goal is to replace
videotape.
the car cameras and body cams all at the same time.
At the same time. I'm getting a little long-winded there, but that's true. That's exactly what we want to do. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I
digress subject.
and there's some of the future things that I would like to do here. We've been blessed here. We've been lucky to have the resources that we have here on a yearly basis. I think the department's a younger department. I mean, we've hired what? I'm looking, how many have we hired here? We've got 3 that are currently getting ready to be out on their own, at least, but they're still on probation. We hired earlier in the year another 4, and we got 3 more, and then we have 1 ready to be hired in the beginning of next year. We have that veteran we have to, he's on the list, and we'll exhaust this list here. So we're in a position to be at 47 here by the end of the year like we wanted to be.
Great.
So, Josie, I was explaining in the back here to the new councilman, considering how the post-employment benefit gets put into the budget and what it really means. We certainly have that, and we have, I'm just top of my head, about 800,000 in post-employment benefits. I'd be pretty close to that, I think.
Dare I ask
Good.
you if you're gonna end up putting
Hey.
that person up at the high school?
We're still, I
I keep hitting you with these curveballs.
the curveballs are good. No, that was actually a fastball. But no, the answer to your question, I certainly am in support of putting another officer back up the high school as an SRO. My belief is that the best way to do that now is to assign him to the detective division. So in the 3 months that which he will be in uniform, if the school district and us come to an agreement, the best thing we would call special operations division per se. He would be in a position where he would be then able in the summertime to help out with the caseload for the detectives. What the detectives are happening is, he would be out of that queue because he would just be on a flex
What's he
time.
there, 9 months?
About 9 months, yeah. So, and also the issue that's happening with us. He or she, right. The issue that's happening with us with our detective bureau is that they're getting inundated with these child lines and different types of investigations that we've never had before. I'm talking at the 80, 90 a year now. And what that means, it takes time. It's all the stuff about, it takes time those officers to go over and do them. Where someone that's assigned to the school, since a lot of them come from the
Are
school.
they getting a lot of cybercrime?
The cyber crimes, all that stuff associated.
The
all of-
mandated reporting.
The mandating and reporting, as you're well aware of as a doctor, all the things that go with that, that would offset the detective. So I do want to add people to the detective division. That's my goal also, as we get to a strength level, it's consistent to keep our staffing in the patrol division.
And the school district is interested in
They
adding
are.
that
The
as
school
well.
district's
We've had
interested.
discussions with them.
We're
It's a
trying to
matter
get
of
a-
finding out the best way to do it and make it
We're
work.
trying to get a better working relationship. We certainly have always had a good working relationship, continue to have that. I know our officers are up there probably on a weekly basis on stuff that they cover above what the school police cover. So that's just.
But
that's
they
a little bit-
eliminated the SRO that we had there,
they did.
correct? And now they're looking at possibly putting him back, one back.
They are.
Thank you.
That's true. But we want to cooperate. We understand the safety of the children in the school. We certainly want to make our schools as safe as we possibly can, and not just our public schools, our parochial schools, our special needs schools, I apologize if that's the improper word to say, but certainly we have a handful of schools that, are even charter schools that we have around the area. We certainly want to be part of trying to make them as safe as possible for everybody.
And no one can argue with that. I mean,
Yeah, nobody
we just
can.
have to find out the best way to do it.
We just got to find out the best way.
Administratively
And we
and
certainly, as I've said to you, Mayor, and you've heard, we certainly, and according to, for Councilman Harvey, we certainly don't want to put one of our school resource officers into one of our officers as a school resource officer in a situation that's going to make them fail. That's not what we want to do. We want to make sure we put it into a situation that everybody's at peace with and that we can do it correctly.
Well, we're totally in favor of it and always were.
Sure, we always
So,
are.
yeah.
I mean, I really am. And everybody, there's good people in both places, and we're just trying to make it happen here.
Thank you.
Very good. Next section, Chief.
Okay? I don't even know what section we're on.
I think we kind of crossed sections.
Communications,
Yeah.
You tell us, we'll go through it.
Oh, well,
communications, the next page,
I'm getting there. Police administration.
Already, didn't we?
30 and 31. This is the dispatch.
Okay. I mean, you're seeing a little bit of increase of about, $80,000 there when you look at the bottom line. We've had some increases in some of the wearing apparel for the people that are assigned to that division to just one. We've tried to keep our expenses, if you look at telephone, telegraph, obviously we issue cell phones to everybody. So that's part of that. There's been some upgrades there. When I look here, just the retiree health insurance, that's not right. Oh, correction, I'm in the wrong one. Retiree health insurance, yeah, that's right, about $800,000. So there's a pretty big ticket there. We tried to keep everything pretty much in line. Actually, if you look at I was looking at the wrong budget here, but you look at the patrol budget, it actually went down.
You in patrol?
I'm in patrol now. I'm actually at 33 there. So
We were looking at communications.
oh, okay. Well, I thought somebody said patrol. Communications is the same thing there. You're looking at, we have limited retired healthcare benefits there because of the contract. But it's been pretty much, the projected budget here was 1.1 million, 27,000. It's staying around 1,080,000.
Doc, is there anything in your budget, are you working on becoming an accredited department?
That's being the police department side of it, yeah, but the answer is yes. Part of one of the expenses on the police is you might see an increase, well, we will see an increase in services that we are purchasing, contract services, and that's because we're using a company called Lexipol. I gotta give a lot of credit to the bargaining unit representatives, because they sit down with us every Monday and Wednesday. We've been doing it now for almost 9 months, where we sit down and we're going over page by page of the whole policy manual. We currently have in effect a 450-page policy manual, but what the Lexipol does is it gives us the opportunity, we do it in a conference call with a video screen, and we talk to the lady that's representing Lexipol. It gives us national, state, and then best practice standards that we review and incorporate in, including what they call PLAC, which is the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission, and we do that. So we're in the process of getting that finalized, with my intent in 2020 is to credit the department under PLAC.
And is there not something else related to maintaining updates and continuing updates and mandates through the Lexipol service?
Well, Lexipol does very good. There's some money involved here, but the reoccurring fees probably roughly $15,000 a year, and that's again put into our service fees already, our contract service fees. The issue with it is they do such a great job once we get done with this that we could do it daily, weekly, monthly, however we want to do it. We're going to probably do it initially weekly. They send out bulletins to the emails to every officer, so when they come on duty and log into their email, they'll have an actual scenario-based question. Very simple, yes, no, true, false, of a scenario, what policy it's covered under. And it reviews the policies and tracks that everybody's reviewing and looking at the policies.
Wow, that's
So
cool.
we're going to be able to document that instead of just throwing a manual on somebody's desk and saying, here's 500 pages, read it, and we know how that will not get read. We have our core policies that the guys know very well, use of force, pursuit driving, all that, but this is the day in, day out policies that will meet all the requirements. And as I said, I got to thank the bargaining unit for being very cooperative. They seem to be on board with this.
And that's
they don't seem
updated
they
also
are.
to the latest changes in the
And
standards.
anything that changes, once we get this up and running, on a daily basis, everybody's got to log in, they already got everybody's email, they'll be able to go into Lexipol, they'll be able to go onto their department-issued
It's like
smartphone
Interpol?
and bring up the poll.
No.
No, it's not like Interpol. And bring up their smartphone, and they'll be able to look at them on their phone. It's just a great way to track, because it's such, we've had the manual, everybody has a manual, but, hey, you got to change section, chapter 1. You got to reissue a whole chapter 1 in paper, punch the holes in it, take the old chapter out, put the new chapter
Karen's
in.
busy for a week.
Those days are all electronic, all paperless, all going to be available. They can print it if they want, parts of it, if there's something they have a question on. And then like anything else, once we get this thing up and running, we're going to certainly maintain it and keep it continuing on so that we can stay current. And they have teams of lawyers nationwide. Thousands of departments use this across the country. And even in Pennsylvania, there's a handful, well, there's more than a handful now, there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple hundred that actually use this, and they keep it current. They have lawyers that review case laws that come out as soon as they come out and they think the policy should be changed. There's an updated policy sent to me, I approve it, it goes out to the bargaining unit, boof, it's in the system, it's in the manual. So in this day of legal stuff and civil liability and everything that goes on with it, we're trying to stay at we're not trying, I think we're doing a pretty good job of staying at the cutting edge.
We still on patrol.
I thought we were in
We're
dispatch.
kinda crossing
You're the
over.
one that jumped the patrol.
Wait, we've done,
Tell me where you want me to be.
Somehow it's her fault.
it's not. Because service contracts is in police patrol,
Yeah.
Ron. What he's talking about, the service contracts that he's talking about are under police patrol. Okay.
So you might have seen an increase in that. And one of the advantages what really made me push toward it was initially, the initial cost to get it going was like $70,000 last year. And they came out somewhere at the beginning of last year and said, we're done with it, it's too expensive. And they cut us back down to the low 30s, 32, 33. The municipal manager and I sat down and discussed it, he signed off on it, and we went and did it. And I had budgeted money for last year to do it. I wasn't at that 30,000 range, but we were pretty close, and we were able to get some money from other parts of the budget without going over budget.
Do you have your wearing apparel coming from 29,000 to 50,000? Is there in patrol? Is there something special being bought, or is that new vest being replaced, or?
Combination of both. One of the other issues with the body cameras, Ron, is that a lot of departments now are going to the over-the-shirt body armor vest. And the reason for that, you can see them in the city, you can see Penn Hills has just gone to them. A lot of them are looking at that. So part of this policy manual is we're going to also looking at the uniforms to make them more, I don't want to use the word tactical because that's not a good word because everybody gets wound up about that, but we're going to try to make it more comfortable for the officers as well as more functional. One of the advantages of an over vest is that you can, think about what's on your waist now. We now have a handgun, we got spare magazines, some guys spare rifle magazines, pepper spray, a taser, a baton, at least one set of handcuffs, and a case to carry your portable radio. When you look at that from a whole perspective, you're just putting too much weight on people's back and hips and causing problems. So the idea is to take some of that and push that up onto a vest, and then we're going to add a body camera on top of it. Even though
So
it's
that-
not,
The vest can hold some of that
hold
stuff that
that
wouldn't be
stuff.
on your
And then
waist.
in addition to that, if you want to do that as an option, you can put suspenders, and you won't see them. They'll be hidden under the over the vest. It's a new ensemble. It's not new. It's really been out for 5 or 6 years, 8 years now. But it's becoming, you saw it in the West Coast, if you watch any of the cop shows, you'd see a lot of the officers even wearing almost like a harness that the military wears that supports their gear. So some of that is to start looking for that. I believe in the contract, there's now going to be a raise in uniform allowance. Any uniforms that we mandate to the bargaining unit, we got to pay for. I'm hoping to have some type of a joint agreement on this that we can do this and keep into our budget line. So that's why I added a few extra bucks there.
Good.
Again, it's the whole idea of getting into the body cameras, trying to offset, make it as easy on the officers as possible.
Sounds good, Chief. Next
Yeah.
section.
35,
Just tell me what page you're on, 35?
35.
Criminal investigation.
Did he
Again,
do this to you?
I follow.
No
You had them in
wonder.
order at first.
You're like two of the same people.
I'm not really sure why it went down a couple $100,000 or $150,000. Is that, oh,
Your hospitalization went from
OPEB.
280 to 266.
yeah, that's probably why. That's one of it. OPEB, probably some of it,
That's 138,000 of it.
yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Hospitalization is what went down.
Okay.
You have younger officers.
Well, I think you assigned
Oh, yeah, it went from
officers,
103 to
sadly,
74.
Yeah.
that have now passed and retired stuff. Is that what you're talking about? Are we talking retired benefits or?
No, I'm talking about regular hospitalization.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it
Okay.
went from 103 to 74.
Right.
Guess the guys are being healthier. Well, I think some of that was because we had more officers maybe in that
You might
that
have.
queue, yeah.
And then,
And
you know,
there's only 5 in that division, just to throw it out here. The salary wise here too, you know, we always try to, I hate to call it a guesstimate, but I guess that's kind of what it is. What kind of overtime reimbursement we're going to be getting for those officers. We have none in here this time. I'm not sure why we didn't do that. Because there should be money in that for next year.
overtime reimbursement?
Yeah.
We moved that to revenue,
Yeah, that goes to
Oh, that's
revenue.
why we did. Okay,
it's
so that's
not
probably why.
expensive.
in the revenue
Yeah.
section.
Well, we used to always put it as a negative, though. We put it as
Yeah, I
negative.
know.
Yeah, that was done for
Debit
a
and I
couple of
think-
years, and
that's
then
correct,
in
yeah.
18 it stopped,
changed that.
changed.
Because we have been generating a lot more overtime than that. And I say that with a little bit of a, we have, the municipality it's not, but we have our officers involved in multiple different task forces, of which that overtime gets reimbursed to us, both federal and state level.
When your arbitration award is gone too. That was 8750.
Because I think
It must have, you moved that to a revenue?
I don't think they have it anymore.
I
No
think,
arbitration awards?
I
so
think
it's
the
That was the flat,
managers,
yeah, that was the flat fee that they received, obviously in the arbitration award, and that goes away,
Okay,
which is relatively speaking a small amount.
yeah.
was that, I don't know what that was for. Oh, okay.
That was the flat
we-
fee that they got under the arbitration instead of a
Oh,
percentage.
yeah, because the budget's,
Yeah,
that
so now
gets
it's
over.
just
Okay.
Decided to
Zero.
take and put that
Yeah.
Okay.
under a separate line item.
Yeah, I guess the only, because we're hopefully not going to go to arbitration, so we're good there. Okay.
Okay, 37.
Okay. Support services. That's obviously our civilian employees that are in there. Or a civilian
This
employee.
is the
just-
person that
that's
takes
just
care of the
Dave.
fleet maintenance, correct?
That's only Dave O'Neill, that's correct, I'm sorry, that's Dave O'Neill.
This whole page,
Yeah.
support.
Any questions, council?
No, none.
Next page, chief.
Training.
Training
39.
division.
As a thought, chief, I think next year maybe we ought to put your IT person on
Well,
it.
I would agree.
I would think,
I would agree.
that's what I thought.
You know, take
that
them
would
out
have been
of
there.
administration, put them under here.
I would agree that, I was kind of, I was thinking that when I was.
Under support,
We
yeah.
we only
Yeah.
got him hired here last week, a couple weeks ago, so he's the end of
Yeah.
19 here, but
Yeah.
for 20, we probably should have put him in there. Well, you know, what happened with police training, there used to be a person assigned there full-time. That's maybe one of the other reasons why the other post-employment benefits picked up a bit in the other divisions, because the retirees that were in police training, they're obviously have post-employment benefits. But we took this down, we discussed that when we were doing our budget, and I'm in total agreement that the only thing we have there is the 40,000, which is for purchasing ammo and different type of stuff that we need, taser cartridges, things like that, that we purchase for that over the year, doing our training and replacing that. That's what that is.
But the training's coming out of the other budget line.
The instructors are all coming out of the other budget line. Well, we don't have any full-time people doing that. That's one of the other ways we did it to save some cost here, is a couple years back now, actually it's been like 5 years back, we started just having officers get detailed out of that in their trainers. And I have a handful that do
Right,
that.
for someone maybe is reading through this, just to be clear that we are training our
Oh,
officers.
we're training more than ever.
Yes, so just,
Well, yeah, and that's
Put that-
something
I
we
wanna
should,
put that out there.
that 40,000, you know, we did go to new weapons here this past, actually, the final set will be issued out here tomorrow. We did go from our 45 caliber Smith & Wessons down to our, I say down to, but went to Glock 5th generation 9 millimeters. and we went back. So it's kind of my whole career. I started out in a 9 and went to a 40, went to a 45.
You
Now
start
we're
off
back.
with
It's just a circle. I'm
357.
back in 9s. But the 9 millimeters, the FBI tested. They speak highly of them. They ballistically, they've come out with new ammo. It says it's the same to get the, all police officers want to do is they have to fire their weapon is they want to stop the action. That's all we're trying to do. And we feel very comfortable with these new weapons. And the kicker, though, of that is when you buy what they call the ball ammo, the non-expensive ammo to practice with, they are half the cost, sometimes maybe a third of the cost of what the 45 ammo is. So what that means is that our officers are shooting more. We used to only do a couple times a year. We're doing 4 times a year, and we're getting a lot more training time. As you guys see when I do the hourly reports of training time. So we believe training, saves us from liability, so that's why we're going to continue to do
Hey,
that.
Doug, on this, in the past, we have kept this police training here since 2014, only because of the OPEB, if I remember correctly. Now, the OPEB, we're doing the accounting on it a different way. Why can't we just, maybe not
Move
for
this
this
whole-
year, yeah, just take the weapon, because most of this is weapons and protective equipment, and put it under police patrol.
That's all it is.
Josie, I think, maybe not now, but next year maybe, or.
Don't you think you ought to be able to show how much you spend on police training and?
Not if you're not if you're not keeping the officers in
Yeah,
there
you don't-
and
you
showing
don't-
that. You're
we
only
used to
showing what
have-
he's buying,
Oh,
ammo.
I
I'm
can,
talking about in a liability situation where you have to show everything that you provided that officer, including training. How much do you train the officer?
We'd still be tracking them.
I could-
It
you
would
could
still be
track that
tracked,
under
Ron.
police patrol or detectives or whatever.
We track
Instead of
all the
having all these
hours
goose eggs here.
used in training, Ron, if that helps you. I mean, I send you monthly reports with the hours, so we track that by individual. It's actually tracked in Telestaff. So Telestaff has, because they're on a training day when they're in Telestaff. So that's how we track, and then, of course, we track it by their training records, when they
You
actually
don't
complete
see
something.
any possibility of eventually having an officer that's in charge of training?
Not in the near future, but I mean, certainly it's always a possibility, just like the same thing with our traffic division. I see that can be something to come back, whether it would be more of a shared responsibility. I think sharing those divisions is the way to go here from an economic standpoint, but, getting the best out of both, both divisions. But, again, it's up to, we could put that, we really could put the, weapons and protective equipment budget in the
Into-
patrol or
back
even
into patrol.
administration. You could put it wherever you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't.
It's still
Josie,
being
what do
labeled.
you think? I
It's
don't
still being labeled the same way.
It should be
It should be.
patrol, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the vast majority is the patrol division. They have, the area of, 36, 38 officers in that
Yeah, they're the
division.
ones that are using most of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the detectives and whoever, yeah, right, correct.
No. Eh. Nope, you're crossing guards too, aren't you?
Yeah. That,
Hey, 41.
I think we have a total of 4. That's exactly right. We have 4 crossing guards now. We have 2 up in University Park, 1 in Mellon Plan, and 1 at Old 22 in Garden City, correct. So that's the 4 crossing guards. We have 1 alternate. Helps us out.
I think when I was looking through Mount Lebanon's budget, when I was looking for that number. It's
ridiculous.
It was like 27.
Yeah. Penn Hills at one time had 45. Yeah, every intersection. I don't think they have that many now. But at one time, they had 40-some, yeah. And, Mount Lebanon, in defense to them, nobody takes a bus. They all walk to
Because they don't
school.
have,
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
walks.
And Penn Hills in that days, that used to be what everybody would walk
Penn
to
Hills has
school.
more people than us packed into 5 square miles.
Yeah, well, that's right, right. So, so the school cards is really not, the real big expenditure there for us, we do share that cost with the, it's actually more than that. We share that cost, half the cost with the school district, just so everybody remembers that, the school district pays half of that. And one of the things we did in the past, and we continue to do now, is we offset their cell phone costs, so they make sure that they have some type of communication with us. God forbid something bad would happen, they could call for help.
So Chief, I'm sorry, the 29,000, say 30,000,
It's half.
we're paying 15
No, it's half.
50.
or 60
It's 60,000.
total?
Yeah, well, that's our expense there.
expense is 29.
Our expense is what you see there, that's correct. And then I think the last thing that I have, fire department, is the training center.
Somebody give me a page.
Well, it's on fire.
Page
suppression.
51.
There it is. Page 51.
How many were there?
ahead, Chief.
Again, we're only about 3,000 up. It's just the use of the utilities. One thing to remember with this cost here, which is showing 60,500 to run that center. That center obviously has 3 buildings in it, 4 buildings if you count the fire tower. It has 3 buildings that requires heat and electricity. Well, I guess the fire tower requires electricity but not heat, and air conditioning in the other 3 buildings. It's been a joint venture it's unbelievably cost-effective for the municipality. In addition to this, if you look at the 60 figure, 24,000, it ends up being a little bit more than that. It ends up being somewhere pushing 28,000 a year, depending on courses that we can charge for. It's minimal that we charge for the use of the facility. There's some firearms courses that we put on that we're able to charge the individuals $25 a head when they come to that. So it ends up being somewhere around 28,000. But
Still running?
24,000 of that comes from Forbes. They rent it for 24,000. So
The
really,
28,000 you're talking about, that's on the revenue side?
that'd be on the revenue side, absolutely. So the reality of this, the actual true cost of this, and I say true because Public Works does do stuff on duty time. They clean things up and keep the grass cut, and they do an excellent job for that. But the actual number cost in this is somewhere in the 40,000 range or a little less. Maybe as less as, depending on how much we can collect. We try to collect fees. They are in this fee schedule when it's possible. We wanted to try to collect more, and we actually had a big discussion with our partners with the FBI, and it became a thing that the FBI couldn't charge. It became a problem. The bottom line was, when they put on courses, we don't want to be charging anybody for law enforcement.
Classroom and burn building and things like that, right?
No, with the stuff that the FBI provides, what ends up happening is that, for instance, I'll give you an example. They put on some firearms instructor classes where they showed up. It was open to multiple agencies throughout the area. Lots of police officers came from, actually, from other states too, West Virginia, Ohio. They came to this class. When they came there to try to charge them $50, they wanted to charge them $50 a head, quote unquote, to use the facility. And that became a real big issue because the federal government is responsible for helping train, and they can't charge people for it. It became really problematic one.
But I mean the municipality charges.
Now, the municipality can, if we have some agency come in that's non-public related, we've done that, or public meaning a public fire rescue, we can charge minimal amounts for some of the wear and tear, which we've done, the use of water, things like that on the fire side of it. But from the law enforcement side of it, became really problematic. An example I'll give you, the NRA comes in, which is an outside agency, and they teach a firearms instructor class also. That's when we can charge because they're an outside agency. They come in, we let them use the facility. We have the agreement of the FBI, and we charge $25 a head for people to be there, use our facility.
There's some issues up at the training academy that I wanted to bring up to you, and I don't know if this is the proper time or we should wait till capital or,
I put money in the capital budget for upgrading. I mean, we're certainly upgrading the fencing there currently. We have things we have to upgrade, as I've been talking to Paul. So we're prepared to talk about that in capital. I mean, the operating side of this, I don't see is going to really change. The electricity, we've been staying pretty much under budget or at budget with the electricity, water, gas, and our TV. We were able to get the cable we have there.
Doug, the burn room needs new towels again.
Okay, that would be a capital,
Okay.
yeah. And we certainly are looking at that.
That's capital, I'm
Yeah.
good to move on.
Yep.
All right, Chief, is that it? Everything?
Yeah, you guys got through me pretty quick here. I know Paul Ugas is real quick, really excited to get up here, so we want to leave plenty of time for him.
Nice job, Chief.
Oh, thanks,
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Doug.
Keep up the good work.
What page are we on? Oh, we'll have to wait.
Next, we have Paul Hugus, Building, Engineering, Community Development, and Public Works.
Mayor, may we take a 5-minute break before Mr. Yugas gets his 5-minute presentation?
5 minutes here, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 5-minute
Oh,
recess.
you're going to be here for 5 minutes.